Hello there, my name's Dr Eileen Baildam. I'm a consultant paediatric and adolescent rheumatologist, and I see patients from birth right up to the age of around 23. I've been a consultant paediatric and adolescent rheumatologist for a lot of years, from 1996, first in Manchester at Manchester Children's Hospital, and then at Alder Hey Children's Hospital. Now I work at the Alexandra Hospital in Cheadle and at the Spire Hospital in Didsbury. So a healthy diet is really important, obviously, through all of our lives, but I'm a pediatrician and an adolescent doctor. It's particularly important in childhood because we're laying down the future body structure for the rest of our lives. And this is particularly the case for our bones. And our bone calcium load, which is the part of the bone that makes it hard, comes out of the diet and is laid down by active cells as this bit of hard concrete-like bone. However, bone is really not a stable rock, and it is a very active organ. So the cells are being laid down and remodeled all the time by osteoblasts, which lay down the calcium, and osteoclasts, which remodel it. And lots of things alter that bone density achieving thing that the bone is doing. And we call it the peak bone mass, which is the amount of calcium in the bones, is most at 21 years of age. So if through childhood we don't eat the right diet, and also if we have very hypermobile joints and muscles that aren't strong, we probably don't get the right forces onto the bone as well to get strong bones. And the combination of that can mean that our peak bone mass at 21 is not high enough. So, yeah, we talked previously, or you may know about the effect of exercise on strengthening our muscles and our bones, but the diet is really important. So for strong muscles in hypermobile children and strong bones, we need to have a lot of calcium in the diet, and we need good protein. We also need a healthy diet in terms of vitamin C and lots of fruit, vegetables, and things that give us that. So a good way of thinking about it is that we need to have calcium for the bones and protein for the bones, but also for the muscles, and then all the vitamins from the other part of our diet and the minerals to help our immune systems and our energy production to be good. So children and young people that become very focused just on a few things and very fussy with their diet, it can be difficult. But as long as those things are spread across the food groups and don't avoid completely protein or dairy products or things that contain calcium, then it's quite hard to get a deficient diet. But if you have a child who's really, and a young person who's really fussy, or just the way we've learned to cook is actually avoiding a lot of food groups, and that can be difficult. So the best way to get calcium is from dairy products, because it is the calcium is absorbed better with the casein part, the cheesy part of the milk. It comes in that, and it's absorbed in conjunction with the protein into the gut and absorbed into the body. That's a really good source, and the best source, really. And children probably need, ballpark figure, something like a pint of milk equivalent a day. That can be in yogurt, cheese, sauces, doesn't all have to be drunk, but that's just a rule of thumb. Other things that are good with calcium will be broccoli, surprisingly, but the very highest food that has the highest calcium per gram of the food is tofu made from soy, because in order to get the protein cheesy bit of the soybean to stick together like a cheese, to make the tofu, they use calcium carbonate to do that, and that makes a really high product. So those things are really, really good. Protein sources are all helpful. So that's chicken, fish, beans and pulses in vegetarian diets, nuts, grains, these all have protein in, and they're all really healthy for our muscles. People that don't have any inflammation in their bodies, so they don't have arthritis or anything, probably red meat is fine too, but we have a little bit of evidence from arthritis data that a lot of red meat is probably quite an inflammatory type of a diet, and probably best avoided. And some people find it helpful to cut red meat out of their diet, and they find sometimes their joint pains are better. But to go totally vegan is very tricky for children. To be a lacto-vegetarian, lacto-ovo vegetarian is much easier to get enough protein and to get the vitamin B12 and things. So for example, a vegan diet may not have enough B12. That's the most important thing that's missing from that. So we like a good spread of dietary things, but protein is really, really important, and calcium. These are really important things in children. But because they're active, they need all the food groups, so they need plenty of carbohydrates. Their cells are growing membranes, their cells are the nerves are growing all the time, and they need fat as well for that, as we all do. So no food group should be avoided in this situation. And basically, the more variety that we have in our diet of natural fruit and vegetables, the better as well. So the more different colors of fruit, the more different colors of vegetables, the more different trace elements and different anti-inflammatory naturally occurring things are available there. So that's just a principle thing, rather than giving you a chapter and verse of exactly how much of things to eat. I hope that's helpful. I think the nutrition and strength are linked. And we know that people that are having eating disorders, for example, if they're anorexic or worried about being overweight, the body can become quite weak if we're actually starving it. Now, obviously, there's a balance, and if it's too heavy and overweight, and unfortunately quite a lot of young people have put on a lot of weight over lockdown and with COVID, that can also influence your hypermobility, because the extra weight you carry is more strain on your joints and can make pain worse, and actually worsen the hypermobility, to actually make the range of movements more. So we don't want to be overweight, and we don't want to be starving. We want to be very healthy and with energy to be fit and active, and to do lots of exercise and to do lots of activities in our daily life. So it's very much a balance here. And probably it's that balance that's the most important for hypermobility. For other rheumatological disorders where there's inflammation involved, then having a healthy gut microbiome is really important too. But I don't think that's so relevant to hypermobility. I might just mention the microbiome. So that is the gut bacteria that help. Well, they live there, and if we get the right bacteria growing, that can help us to stay healthy. And quite a lot of conditions we can find now that there are imbalances in the gut bacteria that might even be involved in causing them. So the thing we can do with that is to have yogurt and probiotics. So there's a really good study recently to show that yogurt, if people take that regularly, it reduces their risk of arthritis. So we think they're doing that by keeping a healthy microbiome. There's also some evidence to show that people that are very overweight actually have different gut bacteria than those that are nice and slim. And so it might even be possible that you could catch being overweight by the wrong microbiome, but it's a new area that we're becoming more and more aware of. But the things we can do for that are having lots of fruit and vegetables and probiotics. They're very good, and they don't have to be hugely expensive. Live yogurt is just as good, and it just helps to make sure that the predominant bacteria are healthy ones that are coming in that way. So that's what we can do for our hypermobility, is to keep a healthy weight with good strong muscles from good nutrition as well as good activities. Really, we find time and time again that one of the healthiest diets is the Mediterranean diet, that has really quite low amounts of red meat, that has natural self-cooked food, a lot of fruit and vegetables, a lot of tomatoes, for example, but also uses olive oil. We know that olive oil is really healthy for our fat balance in the body, and it helps to give the right fat, and it counteracts a lot of cholesterol from other meats particularly, and from other sources of fat. So really, we have not in any of the research done found anything better than the Mediterranean diet. So those that like to visit the Mediterranean, that's the place to do it. But we can do that here, and it is really having so fish, chicken, lots of pulses, lots of beans, lots of nuts, grains, and olive oil, as well as the yogurt that we talked about before. So children actually really do need to remember they need their milk intake, they need their dairy intake, because they're growing. It is quite important that children don't have whole food groups that are reduced to them. People can be too healthy with children and think that they should have skimmed milk and reduce all the fat load. Most children that are not overweight, and obviously there are those that doesn't apply to, but they need to have full fat milk. They need to have normal cakes, biscuits, whatever, to give them the calories that they need. But just laughing aside about cakes and biscuits, the thing that we really need to be careful of in all of our children's diets and in all of our diets is the sugar content, because that is, that's where a lot of hidden calories go, and the sugar content in drinks as well, in juices, in fizzy drinks. These are areas that we need to really watch out for, and try and substitute those for water. Really, that's a better drink, water or milk, and not fizzy drinks, and not a lot of juice. But the hypermobility aspect of that is to have enough energy, not too much weight, and a diet that is anti-inflammatory, like a Mediterranean diet. I'm quite careful not to be too big on this and avoiding things, apart from what we would say was junk food, and we know about that. So if basically, I think if something's home cooked, that should not be avoided, because people know exactly what's in it. It doesn't usually have a lot of extra additives, a lot of colorings, a lot of extra preservatives and things like that. I think we have to be a little careful with too much fish, really, because we know that the sea is not uncontaminated in places. So we have to be a little careful, and there's a balance, because fish is healthy for us if it's grown in a clean water where there isn't any mercury and there isn't any plastic, microplastics, etc. So fish every day for every meal is not a good idea. Probably 2 or 3 times a week is a good idea. So all the kind of food that we buy that's pre-packaged. I think we need to be careful about that. Luckily, a lot of the companies are making more and more healthy things, but the salt content is quite high in a lot of pre-packaged food. And you don't really know what it is. So that's a thing for children. But you know, also the food companies are making wonderful new organic, salt-free or low salt things for babies and youngsters. I think it's trying to be careful with what we buy and try and be looking at the sugar, looking at the additives, and thinking, would I give this to my toddler, where we're usually more careful. And sometimes when they get to be 6 or 7 or 12, we let them have whatever they want. So I think it's just trying to stay as aware that nutrition is so important. And that if we eat a lot of something that isn't good for us, and particularly that sugar actually, then that just alters a lot about us. So yes, I think that's probably what I'd say about avoiding things. Is not to be very specific about it, but just to think about what actually is it. Is that just a bunch of chemicals you're having, or is that a food as near to what grows in the earth, and that your grandmother cooked, and hopefully your mother does now, or your father, or whoever's cooking for you, lucky person. And actually, more and more, I see children and young people cooking for themselves, actually, because they enjoy that. So I think, you know, when they learn to do that, I think they learn that what goes in, that simplicity is better, but not, you know, but when you cook your own food, it always tastes better because it's got real fresh ingredients in. So that's what I'd go for.